Yo guys, what's up? JBC here. Uh, so I was recommended by me from one of my friends to make a tier list video. So, we're doing all of the UT and ST weapons in Realm of the Mad God. I didn't include any tiered weapons here because I didn't think we needed those. And I also, I actually made this, template. You can try it out yourself, but, I took out any vanity items or reskins. So they're all just the default item. Like you'll notice the alien items aren't in there because those are all like reskins. So even though they do have like the special like quirks how they can work with the other alien items, I just decided to take them out, look at the raw items. So yeah, let's see how this goes. So I mean, first up, we got the Void Bow. One of the best bows in the game. Super high DPS, kind of low range, but I mean, it's very good. That's an easy S tier. Easy S tier. Uh, Next, Spirit Staff. Spirit Staff's pretty fun to use, but it kind of sucks. Super high rate of fire, low damage. I think that's like a C tier. Next up, I don't even know what this is called. This is the wand that drops from the cemetery now. I've never had one of these. I don't think it's super good, so I'm just gonna put it at a solid C tier. Okay, next we have the dagger from the new Assassin ST set. I've heard this dagger's like pretty good. I do have one. I don't have the full set, so I haven't tried it with everything, but I do have one of these daggers. Um, I think it's alright. It makes it a melee, so it's super close range. I think it's like B tier. Next we have the stone sword. So stone sword gives you a little bit of extra range for less damage. It does like hard hitting shots with low rate of fire. This makes it really good for high defense enemies. I think it's a solid B tier. Next we have Pixie. So Pixie's very good. Um One of the highest damage items has 0 defense because of its 4 shots. It does get massively destroyed at higher defenses and it's hard to hit all 4 shots. Um but it actually is a decent sword for range. I think Pixie is going to go in A tier for me. I might move it up later, but we'll see. Next we have the Stinger. Stinger is basically good for one thing, and that's killing switches and shatters. It's only good at high defense, and it's kind of trash. I'm putting that in D tier. Next we have the Bone Dagger. Yeah, this dagger sucks. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. Next up is the Swashbuckler Sickle. This actually pretty decent range for the amount of damage it puts out. I'd say it's about in the same category as a Stone Sword, so I'm gonna put it in B. Again, good range, decent damage. Next up is the Sullen Blade. They actually changed this and made it a lot better. Is it even called Sullen Blade anymore? I don't even remember. I think it is. Um, but it's pretty good. I'd think that's a solid A tier. Maybe even S. I don't know. The like katanas are weird because the best katana is basically just tier 13. I mean, we might move it up in a second. Okay, so next up is oh my god. Next up is this the wand from the horrific ST set, and this is trash. D tier, easy D tier. Sibo. So Sibo is a classic. It's pretty good for clearing out stuff. You got 2 shots. All I mean, damage isn't good, but it's good for clearing. I think that's gonna go in C tier for me. Next up is Crystal Wand. Crystal Wand again, only good for super high defense. D tier. I mean, I almost no use cases. Okay, next up is the Quartz Cutter. Quartz Cutter is interesting because it's like a pixie version of the katana. Um, it's not like great in all situations, but it can be good and it's really cool to have. I don't think it's as good as the pixie though, so I'm gonna put it in B tier. Next up is the Demon Blade. Actually, at super close range, when you're hitting both shots of the Demon Blade, it has about the same DPS as a pixie, but it's a lot harder. Like when you're at a range where you can hit 3 shots with the pixie, you're not hitting 2 for the D blade. So it's definitely worse than the D blade. Maybe even worse than the stone sword, just because you have to stand so close. I think that's a C tier. So next up is the Dirk of Cronus. So the Dirk of Cronus is interesting because it has less DPS than like Etherite and um, Ripper, but it does have more range, and the shots compared to Ripper at least are a lot easier to hit. So I think Sea Dirk is actually probably gonna be an A tier for me. I think it gets up there. Next up is Doku, D tier. It's honestly like it's trash. DPS is bad. It really needs a buff. It doesn't really offer anything over a tiered katana. Next up is Debo. Um, Debo does decent DPS. It's really strong, like slow shots, like the Stone Sword. So it's really good against high defense. Um, yeah, I think Debo is just gonna get B tier for me. Next up is the Crystal Sword. Again, a long range sword. Really good range, not great DPS. I think it gets B tier. Much better than the Crystal Wand though. Next up we have Etherite. So one of the highest DPS daggers in the game. Probably higher DPS than Ripper because even though you have to stand closer, you're probably gonna hit more of the shots because the Ripper shots are just a pain to hit. Um, I'm kind of on the edge between A tier and S tier for this one. I think it definitely depends on the class. Like Assassin, you're not gonna want to be that close up, but on like Rogue, you're probably fine. Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna put Etherite into S tier. I think it's that good. Next up is the Magma Staff for the Mystic. This staff is like super close range. It does a lot of like hard hitting shots, but they're super weird to hit. I don't think it's that good. I'm kind of fighting between C and D tier on this one. Like, is it as bad as these? Yeah, it probably is, especially on its own. Like, if we're not considering the whole ST set, I definitely say it's down there. Next is the Orc's Great Sword. This sword's super low range. It's pretty good damage, but it's so low range. I think it's gonna have to go in C tier with D-Blade. This dagger is like horrible. D, yeah, D tier. Not even. Tezcoodle's tail. Again, another one that's just really good at high defense. There's not that many high defense things, or if there are, they're probably being armor broken, so it's not like that useful. Um, I think it's C. I don't think it's as bad as like Stinger. Okay, I mean, is this one even a question? Yeah, that's not even a question. I mean, Sword does so much damage, and then the shots aren't that hard to hit. Bard actually kind of nerfed Sword when Bard came out because the Bard buff makes it harder to hit Sword shots. So that's interesting, but I mean, I still think it's easily S tier. It's just such a good item. So much damage. Uh, yeah, 3G wand is not very good at all. None of the wands really are, to be honest. I think 3G is gonna get a C tier from me. Um, Next up is Indomitable. Uh, really high damage, super low rate of fire. Can do some really good DPS though. I think Indomitable's going B tier for me. Next up is Reikoku. It's really good with the full set, but kind of trash on its own. Doesn't have very good DPS on its own. I think Reikoku is going C tier for me. Next up is Ripper. So Ripper is extremely good damage, but the shot speed is very slow, so it's very hard to hit a moving target, which I think is what holds it back from being S tier. So I think it's going to be an A tier. Next up is Cult Staff. So Staff super high damage, used in world record runs all the time. Extremely good on Mystic, but it shoots backwards, and that shoots backwards really holds it back from Wizard or Necro unless you're hacking, because you're not able to hit your spell bomb or your skull while shooting the staff, right? So I think that keeps it at an A tier for me. Obviously, if it was shooting forward, it'd be like the most OP item in the game, and it'd be S tier easily. So I do think it's balanced with having to shoot backwards. Next up is Leaf Bow. Yeah, I think Leaf Bow does really good damage. The only downside is it doesn't pierce. It doesn't do as good damage as like Void Bow, Deathless, things like that. So I think it's going in A tier for me. Condu, Condu's actually pretty good DPS. Again, shots don't pierce like the tiered ones, but it's pretty good DPS. I think it's gonna go in B tier. Cutlass, Cutlass is super good DPS. It's low range, but it's worth it. You do a lot of damage with Cutlass. I think Cutlass is going S tier for me. I mean, it's really good damage. Gives you a little bit of speed, helps you with rushing. Takes away a little defense, but I mean, who needs defense anyway? Poison Fang Dagger, trash. Okay, next up we have Ray Katana. Um, Garbage. I hate it. Nope, horrible item. D tier. Ray Katana, I mean, it has range, right? But what? You're on a freaking like, why do you need that much range? Like, you're gonna do no damage. You're standing that far away. Like, what kind of like, what are you doing? You don't. This item sucks. Easy feed power though. Wand of Geb, trash. D tier. Centennial Staff, trash. D tier. This staff, from the Necromancer ST set, shoots 3 shots. It can actually do some pretty good damage. I'm debating between B tier and A tier on this one. I think it's going on its own. I think it's going B tier. If you're talking about full ST sets, it'd be a different story. But on its own, it's going B tier. This dagger does like the same as like a tier 13. It's a little more damage than a foul. I think it's a solid B tier. Sprite wand, F tier. F tier. This might be the worst UT ever invented. The Esben staff, bleh, horrible, horrible shot pattern, horrible damage, just no reason to ever use it. It's an F tier in my book. EP. So EP does a ton of damage if you're standing on the boss. There's a few bosses it's really useful on, including Oryx 3 in testing. There are some phases in Oryx 3 during testing where you could safely stand with an EP and do like 15% of his health in one phase. And if that stays case, then this staff actually becomes relevant. Right now, it's not very relevant. So, assuming it's able to be used on Oryx 3, I'm putting it in B tier. If it's not, it's probably down in D tier. This stuff sucks. So, this katana from the Samurai ST set, um, it's actually really good damage. It shoots 2 shots. They go through stuff, like even obstacles. I don't think it's on the level of S tier. I just I don't know if I can put it S tier, but it's definitely A tier. This stuff's pretty bad. It's going D tier. T-shot, um, T-shots, it's alright damage, not as good as Leaf Bow, but shots pierce, it's really fun to use. It's going B tier for me. Next is oh my gosh, Nectar Crossfire. Uh, Super hard to hit all 4 shots. If you do hit all 4 shots, it's alright damage. Yeah, it's going C tier for me. Deathless, man, Deathless is a good bow. Um, I think I have to put Deathless at S tier. It's almost as good DPS as Void Bow. It's up there. It is a ton. Um, yeah. Also, just to mention, I didn't include the Oryx weapons in here. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious where most of them would go, but just because those aren't always obtainable, I didn't include them. Next is Void Blade. So, Void Blade's kind of like an EP. You don't have to be standing on the boss because the shots do stay there for a little bit. But I mean, zero range just shoots it where you are. Can be really good in certain situations. If you know what you're doing, I think B tier. I don't think it's A tier, just because I mean it's not usable in nearly enough situations. Wand of Bulwark, it's just when are you gonna use it? I think it's D tier. I mean it does damage, but D tier. Corruption Cutter is actually interesting. I think Corruption Cutter is probably gonna be a B tier for me. It's an alright dagger. The two shots is a pretty cool feature, especially if you're using the good shot pattern, which you can manipulate yourself. Yeah, I think it's just going B tier. So Burgeonia Bow, I didn't initially think it was great, but recently there's been a lot of talk about it, how good it is. I think it's gonna go A tier for me. It's a pretty good bow, and the set's overall pretty good also, so it's going A tier. Finally, Wand of the Fallen, best wand in the game, easily S tier. I mean, super high DPS. It's shorter range, but again, range. Psh, who needs range? So I think that concludes my tier list. Again, feel free to do this list if you want. It's on tier list created by me. Uh, in addition, if any of you would like to join my guild, it's called Java Guild. We're currently recruiting. Um, I'll have a link in the description to apply. We're trying to get a lot of active people here. Um, yeah, so please join Java Guild, and thank you guys for watching.